Professor François Bry. Thank you very much for taking some time to tell us about Alzheimer's laboratory today. It was really exciting to get to take a tour and hear about it. And one of the things that was very interesting to me was you spoke about his initial patient, the financial opportunities that she had in being able to be treated by Dr. Alzheimer's.
She was a lady of a very simple and poor background, and basically she could not afford the treatment. So there was a system of 3 price categories. So the wealthy had to pay the full price. And the second category was a lower price and probably not so good living condition at the hospital. And the third category where that the state was covering all the costs. And that was the case of Auguste D., like she's named.
And was her quality of care any different than what a wealthy person's quality of care would have been?
I would assume that maybe the room and maybe the quality of food and maybe this kind of things were not as good. But an interesting thing about Alzheimer is that he was strongly opposed to any kind of coercion against patients, which was extremely widespread at that time in psychiatric clinics, and he was strongly against it. He was extremely considerate. Even when you read his interviews, you see that he was not only concerned of documenting, but he was really talking to a human being, and you feel really concerned for the well-being of the person. So in this respect, I'm pretty sure that her treatment by the medical doctor was the one anyone would have got. There was a turn at that time in medicine, probably everywhere, but especially in Germany. Things were changing. It was the beginning of a modern medicine, of a modern attitude towards the patients. And as I told you, at that time, psychiatric diseases or syndromes were either seen from the angle of psychology. It was the time of Dr. Freud in Vienna, but or from the angle of something which was probably physical. And Alzheimer was investigating the physical side. I don't know what he really thought of psychology. I don't think he was against, but he believed that many mental diseases had a root in a dysfunction of organs, and it's what he was investigating. If you believe that someone is intellectually and mentally restricted because of something not working properly in the brain, you have a completely different attitude than if you just look at someone who is not behaving properly. I even believe that at some point he said to someone that it's regrettable that it's not possible to look into the brains of the patients when they live, and that it's impossible to do it afterwards. And it's exactly the way of thinking of people of today, except that now we have possibility to look at the working of the brain without opening, without waiting until the people die. So I think it was a modern approach to medicine with old-fashioned techniques, but it was the beginning of the medicine as we know it, I believe.
And you're a mathematician, is that right?
Yeah.
And so how is it that you came to know about Alzheimer's laboratory?
Oh, that's just by chance. I met with one of the followers of Alzheimer on the same position with Professor Pernetsky. And I talked with him a couple of times related to data science and when I work in computing. And then I asked him what is the state of Alzheimer research and what are the expectations. And he told me, we're all interested in Alzheimer because Alzheimer is around, is everywhere. We all know people who have the disease, and we know that it's something which is widespread. So Alzheimer disease is one of the big issue for society as a whole. So when you have a chance to meet a young colleague who work in the field, I can't refrain to ask him, so what do you do? At that time, he had great hopes of a breakthrough in a project, and 2 years after, he told me, no breakthrough. It didn't work as we expected, but that's where research is. So.
Right. It's interesting that you say that about his negative result, because I think sometimes we forget that a negative result represents progress in science. We're turning over a stone to see if there's something underneath it.
Yeah.
If there's nothing underneath it, then we've at least turned over that stone and we can move on to the next one.
Especially in medicine. I mean, most of the work is not successful. Most of the work are negative results. But, from time to time, something is getting through. And I think of the COVID pandemic. I mean, the great thing is that within 2 years, we had vaccines based on completely new technologies, which would not have been possible 5 years earlier. And right. In a way, things are working well, but shall we get a treatment for Alzheimer in a couple of years or in a couple of decades or maybe longer than that? Nobody knows, but nobody should give up. If I remember well, I read that in the so-called Great Plague, I think it was the 12th or 13th century, 2/3 of the population of Europe died. So it means that afterwards, there were almost nobody for doing the work in the field, so they had problems for getting food, they had problems for getting workers, and it took probably 1 or 2 centuries to get out of it.
It's interesting, it really puts COVID into perspective. Obviously a lot of people have suffered from COVID, and people who have had COVID continue to suffer from long COVID, but we didn't lose 2/3 of the population. It was like a grand experiment in a way. We had the full range of interventions from the top-down approach in China, and we had in Scandinavia. We'll just let it run its course.
In Scandinavia, in Sweden.
In Sweden, right.
Not everywhere.
Not everywhere. And then in other places we had other approaches. So if nothing else, I hope we've learned a lot.
And maybe one more word about medicine and the pandemic and worldwide politics. The big issue nowadays is to get the vaccines free for the less developed countries. Mm-hmm. It's a difficult issue because, of course, those who invested work and money in this vaccine want to get something back from it. But on the other hand, it's in the interest of humanity as a whole that everyone can get vaccinated. And as difficult and tough a political and economical issue is, it's one of these issues that are connected to medicine. We need that everyone can get vaccinated, whatever happens.
Right.
And that money is not an issue if the country has no money.
Yeah.
And even if the reason why the country has no money is bad management and corruption and whatever, in the end, people should get vaccinated because it's in our best interest.
Yeah, the world has become considerably smaller, and whether you care about the person who lives on the other side of the world or not, that person is your neighbor. And if you don't take care of your neighbor, you're not taking care of your neighborhood.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
So thank you for coming. Thank you for your thoughts and telling me what you're doing in research. Thank you very much.